Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope you're all doing well. Good to see you again. So, tonight we're going to pretty much be looking exclusively into some of the new information that has come out about Epstein's death and the possibility that he is either still alive or didn't take himself out, which the latter we kind of already knew, and the possibility of him still being alive, there's kind of been more evidence stacking up in that realm. But yeah, let's just get right into it. Let me just pull up my chat real quick so I can look at it off. Good evening to y'all too. Hope everybody is enjoying their Friday. All right. So there has been actually, let me cover this first because there have been some things happening with the files that are kind of sketchy that I want to talk about. First of all, we've been noticing that a lot of files have been disappearing, and this has been happening since the beginning. Many of them involve Trump, some of them involve other powerful families like the Rothschilds, or people like Elon Musk that we know has been taken out of some of the files. So let me share my screen here. So right now, we're seeing that at least almost 10,000 documents in the Epstein files have been taken down. Now, the DOJ is saying that this is due to concerns from victims, that documents were identified of victims based on identifiers not previously known to the department. So, that's a possibility because thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. I love this, Hoodie. Um, yeah, they were exposing victims, and they should definitely be doing something about that to fix it. So, maybe that's a possibility, but we've also been noticing that the number of searches for Donald Trump have been lowering, and that the number of searches or results on searches for various powerful people have been dwindling. So, that's an issue. I also saw there was oh yeah. There was deletions happening on Reddit too, because people have been trying to archive things on Reddit, and some kind of mods have been going through and deleting them. Now, if you'll remember, Ghislaine Maxwell was a very prominent moderator on very large political Reddit pages, just like Epstein was involved in many 4chan pages as well. So this is looking like something is going on here. Why don't they want this information to be cataloged? Why are Reddit mods taking this stuff down? And let's see. There's also some good stuff here with the redactions that people have figured out. So, look at this right here. You see the bottom redaction? I was going to take polo lessons in Calgary, but I redacted think my body can handle it, right? That's weird. It's, if you're good at playing those games where you can fit the context in, you know what I mean? You can probably tell that the word is don't there. So why are they redacting don't? The first three letters of don't are DON, Don. So they're more than likely using some kind of AI software that is scanning all these files and flagging various words, whether it be Don, Donald. And then we noticed in one of the emails about Elon last night, there was his name was redacted in multiple points, except the person that was emailing Jeffrey spelled his name wrong and spelled it Elan, and you could see that it was clearly Elan, even though we already knew that from the context anyway. And I think Elon was not redacted in another reply down the line. So obviously, we all know that AI has hallucinations, makes mistakes, is incredibly useful, but still makes a ton of mistakes. But this could be what's happening here. And why else would you be redacting don't? It's obviously something automatic happening. So in the light of this, there has been a whole lot of things coming out in regards to Trump's involvement and his family's involvement as well, and Mar-a-Lago. So despite all these attempted redactions, there's still things leaking out. Next week, some of the politicians on the other side that are a part of the oversight committee are going to be able to look at the unredacted files. But I'm pretty sure they're going to have a time limit of some sort. They're going to have a lot of restraints on them, but they should be going there armed with the exact documents that seem the most suspicious, and hopefully they'll be able to identify some people from that and actually bring some justice to this. But there was this Epstein recruiting a 15-year-old from Mar-a-Lago. She would not have been required to have an employment verification issued as her job description did not meet her what was required. My notes of the interview with her indicate she was recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell from Mar-a-Lago. If you still talk to Ghislaine, she should be able to verify if she recruited her or not, and then work backwards from that. So this was with Bill Riley and Riley Kiley, and this was 2011, so that's likely about Virginia Giuffre, because that was when yeah, exactly. That was around the same time. Can we find out when she worked at Mar-a-Lago? She says she was 15. I don't think so. Would have had to have had an employment card for underage. Yeah. So we've seen this referenced in other emails, but this is the first time that I had seen this email in particular. There's this other one I found. To Farkas Andrew. So let's see. Can we do a coffee with Don Jr. Thursday, Friday? Only F easy. As you know, I like people that are funny. So this is 2019. Jeffrey Epstein is trying to set up something with Don Jr. Are there any other Don Jr.'s that I don't know about, or is it just this is the guy he was emailing with? I mean, there's only one Don Jr. that I know about that he'd be talking to, and that's 2019. So that's pretty interesting. And these are, a lot of this we already knew. It wasn't like the very intense accusations that we've had in some of the files, but regardless, these are pretty um there's not much you could do to wiggle out of this, out of the fact that that was probably Don Jr. and that Virginia definitely worked at Mar-a-Lago, and that Trump apparently spent hours at Jeffrey's house with Virginia years later for some reason. Real quick, though, before we get into the dead or alive thing, this is pretty wild.
It was very powerful. So, like, if you were on the scene and you were powerful, like, to be honest, like, if you're not in those files,
Tom
it would be an
that
insult,
not being named
because
in
it
the
just
Epstein
means that you
files
were a
is
bit of
an
a
insult.
loser.
It
Right.
makes you a
So
bit
the people
of a
who aren't
loser.
in the file.
He knew everybody that was very powerful. If you were on the scene and you were powerful, like, to be honest, like, if you're not in those files, it would be an insult, because it just means that you were a bit of a loser.
Right. So the people who aren't in the files are losers.
Yes.
Okay. Are you in the files?
Well, of course I am, because it's any journalist that wrote about it.
That's an astonishing attitude, isn't it? You're the loser because you're not in this. I find that jaw-dropping.
He knew every
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think this is like the last affection that they have, because at this point it's like, everything else that they have tried has been proven wrong by what has come out. So now they're just like, it was cool. It was no problem. Just like the Megyn Kelly excuse of a couple weeks ago, where it was like, oh, they were just barely legal or whatever, which is not the correct term for that. No. And also not correct. But yeah, this report came out today that has had everybody talking. Who entered Epstein's jail tier the night of his death? Newly released video logs appear to contradict the official accounts. Newly released Department of Justice documents show that investigators reviewing surveillance footage from the night of Jeffrey Epstein's death observed an orange-colored shape moving up the staircase toward the isolated locked tier where his cell was located at approximately 10:39 p.m. on August 9th, 2019. That entry in an observation log of the video from the Metropolitan Correction Center appears to suggest something previously unreported by authorities. A flash of orange looks to be going up the L tier stairs, could possibly be an inmate escorted up to that tier. It also appears, according to an FBI memorandum, that reviews by investigators led to disparate conclusions by the FBI and those examining the same video from the Department of Justice's Office of an Inspector General. The FBI log describes the fuzzy image as possibly an inmate. Look at this highlighted part here. A flash of orange looks going up the L tier stairs. Could possibly be an inmate escorted up to that tier. The Inspector General logs it as an officer carrying orange linen or bedding, noting that in their final report that an unidentified corrections officer, noting it in their final report as an unidentified corrections officer. I don't know. It says it is possible someone's carrying an inmate linen or, but I don't think so. I think this is the video right here. Let's see. Let's take a look at this real quick.
That appears to contradict the official account of CBS News has uncovered new evidence that appears to contradict the official account of what happened in Jeffrey Epstein's jail the night he died. We've studied surveillance video showing a glimpse of what may be a person in orange near Epstein's cell. FBI and Justice Department logs refer to it. Authorities have insisted no one entered Epstein's cell tier at night before he died. Scott McFarlane has covered this case for many years. Scott, good morning. What are we learning?
Hey, Vlad, good morning. More than 6 years after the death of Jeffrey Epstein in a federal prison, the mystery over how he died remains very much alive. A new analysis of surveillance video by CBS News shows a partial view of what may be someone possibly headed up to Epstein's cell tier the night he died. Notorious sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell in the early morning of August 10th, 2019, inside this since shuttered federal prison in Manhattan.
What? And you could just see them clearly walking with somebody.
This was the vow of then Attorney General Bill Barr.
We will get to the bottom of what happened, and there will be accountability.
There is wild shit in here, including in the files. They say that they put a bunch of boxes on a gurney or something like that and wheeled it out in front of the cameras and they said it was his body, and it wasn't actually his body.
Epstein's death was quickly ruled a suicide, but a technical failure that left only one working camera near his cell that night has created conspiracy theories about what happened leading up to his death. At the time, the Attorney General said no one entered Epstein's housing tier the night of his death. But there's been scrutiny of a particular moment on the cell block surveillance footage where an orange-looking flash could be seen at 10:39 p.m. A report from the Justice Department Inspector General notes the flash, quote, "It is possible someone is carrying inmate linen or bedding up the stairs." And the final report refers to it as, quote, "an unidentified corrections officer." But now, newly released Justice Department documents reveal an initial FBI review of surveillance video on the cell block says the flash could possibly be an inmate. And independent video analysts consulted by CBS News say the movement was more consistent with an inmate or someone.
That's a whole like person there. That's not a wad of linens. You're not carrying around a thing like this.
Wearing an orange prison uniform than a corrections officer. And prison employees tell CBS News it would have been highly unusual to move an inmate at 10:39 p.m. Jeffrey Epstein was found dead at 6.
The tattoo is missing. Are you talking about Tupac back in the day? I remember that was one of the things that they were saying.
6:30
They were the
a.m.
one that broke the
following
story,
morning.
and they have the
Last year, then
fucking
Deputy
thing.
FBI Director Dan Bongino insisted
there's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
a separate CBS News investigation last year also cast doubt on how the prison preserved the
And I'm shocked too. I'm shocked that this was out on here. Like, what the hell?
crime scene and why Jeffrey Epstein's body and some object were moved before the FBI arrived. This does not change the assessment Epstein died by suicide, but these new details raise further questions.
But yeah, that's definitely sketch. See if there was anything else in here. Oh yeah, this was the one. Thomas told investigators he discovered Epstein in his cell shortly after 6:30 a.m. on August 10th, and that he ripped Epstein down from the hanging position. Investigators asked what happened to the noose. I don't recall taking the noose off. I really don't, he replied. I don't recall taking the thing from around his neck. What? And there is no noose. That's the other thing. Noel, who remained standing at the cell entrance, told investigators she saw Thomas lower Epstein to the floor, but did not see a noose around his neck. The noose Epstein allegedly used has never been definitely identified. What? According to the Inspector General's report, a noose collected at the scene was later determined not to be ligature used in Epstein's death. So how did he get strangled then? Thomas also described Epstein as shirtless when he found him. Evidence records indicates a shirt believed to have been cut from Epstein's body was later returned from the hospital in a bag of personal belongings. The new documents also show that New York City's Office of Chief Medical Examiner reviewed the jail surveillance footage 6 days after Epstein's death as a part of an investigation and concluded the video was too blurry to identify any individuals. Hours later, the office publicly ruled Epstein's death a suicide. The medical examiner did not provide an estimate on how long Epstein may have been dead before his body was discovered. So, like, yeah, we're going to look at Tartaglione as a possibility. We're definitely going to look at that tonight. Dr. Michael Baden, a forensic pathologist retained by Epstein's brother, previously told CBS News that Epstein had likely been dead for several hours and he was found, but because the body had been moved, determining the time of death was impossible. And then there's also the matter of the hyoid bone in the neck that was broken that is highly unusual. To happen in a suicide. It would usually be in cases of homicide. Bonhomme declined to comment. Yeah, okay. But yeah, that is a wild one. And I'm shocked to see this actually reaching the mainstream and CBS News nonetheless, which is like even more in Trump's pocket than Fox at this point. So that is definitely quite shocking. So this is another angle of this that I hadn't seen picked up in the news, and that is this document right here. This is not like a random FBI report. This is um like an interview with a FBI special agent and a report from that, like highlighting what was discussed. Was interviewed by FBI Special Agent, Office of the Inspector General and Assistant United States of the Southern District of New York, yada, yada, yada. Let's see where it was. I wish I could have highlighted it. After being advised of the identities of the interviewing agents and provided the following information. Okay, here it is. So this redacted person has worked for BOP since March 6, 1994, and has worked at MCC since May 4th, 2019. Prior to the MCC, they worked at BOP's Federal Correctional Facility. Okay, it's their career. Does not have a BIP issued phone. Currently supervises. Each day there are 3 working watches at the MCC. The day watch begins at 7:30, ends at 4 p.m. Typically, the SHU CO has keys and therefore can't go downrange and interact with the inmates. One opens and closes the door and completes paperwork, provide the inmate with food. In the SHU, inmates are... Okay, here's the Epstein stuff. Did not remember when Epstein first came to the SHU. Figures Epstein must have been housed with the prison's general inmate population at some point because approximately 1 month ago, while Epstein was already in the SHU, an inmate in the general prison population told Epstein that he wanted to speak with him without providing a reason. Redacted never had an in-depth conversation with Epstein regarding this matter because Epstein spent 12 hours a day from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. meeting with his lawyers. Anytime Blank ran into Epstein, he appeared to be in a good mood, and Blank thought he was just a happy guy. Blank does not know that Epstein was housed in the SHU when he attempted to take himself out in July, was in the elevator with one of the MCC's doctors, said he was en route to the SHU to tell personnel that Epstein had always needed to have a cellmate as a result of this incident. This information was not provided in writing or listed anywhere in writing in the SHU office. It was instead passed on to each watch word by mouth. Days prior to Epstein's death, Blank ran into Epstein as he was being escorted downstairs to meet with his lawyers on either Wednesday or Thursday. Epstein told them he needed to set up his pack and pin, which allows inmates to make social calls. However, Epstein had been unable to set it up because he was always to assist him, locked in the system. Epstein told Blank he wanted to make a call to his mother, but had not yet been able to set up a pack and pin. He views ensuring his inmates have family socialization as part of his job, so he allows inmates having technical problems with their pack and pin a single 15-minute phone call. They told Epstein to watch. His watch was ending at 7 p.m. that day, and he would only need to be able to make a call was if he ended his meeting with his lawyers earlier than normal. Blank checked and confirmed that Epstein had not yet set up his pack and pin. At approximately 6:45, found Epstein waiting for him to make the call. Epstein was handcuffed, searched, and brought upstairs. Blank did not know which cell Epstein's and instead put Epstein in the shower on tier G. So what, he was out of his cell and he wasn't supposed to be? He was just wandering around? And that's why he got handcuffed and searched? Because, like, why are you going to get searched? I mean, I haven't been in jail long enough to get a lawyer. I've been arrested plenty of times, but I've, after court, everything's always been all right. So I'm not sure what that process is when you like see your lawyer and then you go back in. Like, do you get searched and handcuffed? Like, you were already handcuffed. And who knows how it works for rich people. But again, the way this is written, it appears that he was just out wandering around, and they were like, "What the fuck are you doing, bro?" Like, you know what I'm saying? um, uh, the phone cord barely reaches into the shower, where the guards are also physically present with Epstein. Use the outlet on the left, which is legal and fine. Maybe it was because they were allowing him into a different area to use the phone. Maybe that's it. Epstein heard him say, "Hey, how are you doing? How's everything?" On the day Epstein was found deceased, he was scheduled to work from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. as the duty officer. Prior to arriving at work, Blank received a phone call from Blank, who said Epstein had attempted to take himself out. He took the train, and by the time he arrived at MCC, the news media reporting that Epstein was deceased. I think we're starting to get to the part that I had discovered. Upon arriving at the MCC, he completed some tasks before assigning him to the hospital on Park Row, which is separate from the main MCC building and where Epstein's body was being guarded. When Blank arrived at the hospital with case management coordinator, Blank was responsible for taking Epstein's fingerprints, COs, where Epstein's body and had secured the scene. Sorry, it's difficult to read it out loud with the redactions and have it make sense. I hope it's still coming across okay. Blank remained with the COs, Blank and Blank, until personnel from the Office of Chief Medical Examiner arrived to transport Epstein to their facility. All right, here it is. Here it is. Due to the large media presence outside the MCC, a male official called and said he would be arriving at the loading dock with a black vehicle. In order to thwart the media, we used boxes and sheets to create what appeared to be a human body, which was put into a white OCME vehicle, which the press followed, allowing the black vehicle to depart unnoticed with Epstein's body. What? That is insane. That doesn't sound like right? What am I reading, man? It sounds like some getaway. Like, this is what one of the prison employees says. They put a bunch of boxes on a stretcher and wheeled it out in front of the media. There's something wrong with that. After OCME departed with Epstein's body, Blank returned to MCC and wrote a memo containing a timeline of events and a recount of the previous night's phone call. That's wild. Trying to see if there, but that I'm pretty sure that was the part I was looking for. But there were a couple other things interesting in there that I hadn't picked up the first time too. That's definitely pretty crazy. What is up with that? And then, of course, I saw this going around this week. Unfortunately, we did find out that this was AI, because this was very convincing. This had a lot of people convinced. I saw a bunch of videos about it. I saw, a whole bunch, and I was ready to do a video on it. But it turns out this is the original, right? And you see down here at the bottom by the guy's left boot there is a Gemini symbol right there, if you can see my mouse. And apparently as well, the Hebrew on the signs doesn't make sense, people have said. So why is that making you wish you were still a smoker? I haven't hit it on screen yet. I mean, I often do, but a lot of times I'll take down my so I don't get demonetized, but I can't monetize stuff about Epstein anyway, so I smoke all I want tonight. Yeah, so I was, this is why it talks about it not being AI, or why it That originally it said it was. But Grok has also that was Grok's analysis, is that it was an AI at first, until the one with the watermark showed up. And it was pretty clever of them too, because this got community noted at first, and then they just cropped it and started sharing this version without the watermark until that eventually got community noted as well. But this one's real, and this one's old though. The one I used for the thumbnail, this one was out way back in the day. This was when some people took drone footage over his island and right after he died, and saw this guy. Now, this guy, Sheila's video, which one? She has a lot of them. If you share it, I'll watch it, because I wanted to check that out. So yeah, this was that's pretty convincing, I think. You know what I mean? Like, this was like a month or two after he allegedly died. Yeah, they should do better with that. Yeah, they looked identical, and they were also walking diagonal across the crosswalk. Hold on a minute. You could kind of see it in the long one. They're like walking diagonally across the crosswalk. It's like they would be knocking a bunch of people out of the way if they were actually, you know, but whoever did that, well played, like, well played. Yeah, let's go back up here and see. So I couldn't find it, but there was also somebody in a truck that looked like him outside of Zorro Ranch not long after he passed too. These are some of the other drone footage or drone pictures that were taken. That definitely looks like him. These are the locks on the outside, yeah. Or I think that's what it is, yeah. He has like, oh, this must be from when they busted the place up. So yeah, that's, I don't know, man. I definitely don't think that he took himself out. You know what I mean? But I also now I'm starting to lean towards the possibility that he could be alive. Let's take a look first though at the Tartaglione deal, because this guy was one of his okay, cool. Awesome, thanks. Got that link. I will yeah. Let's see. This Tartaglione guy was his cellmate initially. I don't think it was his cellmate like later. Because he moved after the initial attempt, but this guy was his attempt, I'll say. This guy was his cellmate when he first did the failed attempt. And, he ended up, we found out in later documents, telling telling other guards that he woke up like that and that he didn't do that to himself. So this guy's a complete psycho, a retired cop that, like, has taken at least 4 lives. He is known to threaten people. He's a total nut. So let's take a look at this real quick.
Also following some breaking news at 5, a guilty verdict in the case of a retired suburban cop accused of dealing drugs and killing 4 men.
CBS 2's Tony Aiello live at the federal courthouse in White Plains now. Tony.
Maurice, this was a 3-week trial with 2 days of deliberations. This afternoon, the jury convicted one-time Briarcliff Manor cop Nicholas Tartaglione for drug trafficking conspiracy and murder and kidnapping in furtherance of the conspiracy. The U.S. attorney said Tartaglione killed 4 men in April of 2016. Martin Luna was strangled, targeted for a $200,000 drug debt. 2 of his nephews and a friend were with Luna and allegedly shot dead to stop them from talking. Their bodies were found buried at an Orange County farm rented by Tartaglione. Prosecutors say 2 men, bodybuilders Joseph Biggs and Gerard Benderoff, aided Tartaglione. Biggs testified at the trial, while Benderoff killed himself as police tried to arrest him in 2017. But Tartaglione's legal team said those others were framing Tartaglione and their...
Yeah, that makes sense. New York cop, drug dealer, murderer, definitely sounds a lot like mafia.
Will be an appeal.
Nick was disappointed. He had great hope that he'd be exonerated. As everyone knows, guilty verdicts are what precedes every wrongful conviction reversal. So he remains hopeful that the system will one day vindicate his position, which from day one has been he's not guilty.
So Tartaglione faces life in prison when he is sentenced in October. You may recall his name in connection with the Jeffrey Epstein case. The 2 men once shared a cell at the Metropolitan Correction Center in Manhattan. Live in White Plains.
Yeah, that's underselling it. That's way underselling it. So yeah, they shared a cell when Epstein woke up with his being strangled, essentially. And so what I'm saying is, though, even I think he was moved to a cell by himself or something like that for the night that he did his life did end. But now we're seeing that there were people moving around, moving back and forth. So I still think if there was somebody that was going to take him out, Tartaglione would be the guy, the guy on the inside to do it, especially if he was mafia too. But there's some other stuff. Let me see. I saved this. There was this guy named Clay Tiffany who was like a independent journalist back in the day. Back in kind of the early days of Tartaglione's corruption when he was a cop. And he used to, yeah, exactly. The NY reporter they killed was uncovering a gang of NYC mafia cops. Exactly. And this guy went to the police station here.
What about the years-long harassment by Linda?
And he confronted them. This was, let's see if they say in the description how long this was before. And he was beaten very badly by Nicholas Tartaglione as well. And you could tell this guy, this is like very early podcast. I don't even know. I wish it said what year this was.
Linda Mangano of Bill Reynolds. It's incredible. She's bragged about following Bill Reynolds and harassing him. So when Linda Mangano said regarding Sergeant Greenan, he should drop dead, I once again say Sergeant Greenan should pay close attention. Now let's go back to what I look like after Nick Tartaglione, whom Linda Mangano has on at least 2 occasions now asked the Ossining Village Board to give Nick Tartaglione a humanitarian award. Can my man in the other room put up the video, where the same video that you had on before? I had it stopped. And can you put on, my man in the other room, the video of what I look like after Nick Tartaglione beat me up the 4th time. All right, see that? See that? And I have pictures taken by the FBI that are worse.
And now he goes up here to confront them after this. Yeah, it's terrible.
Are there any other reporters besides 12? Are you a reporter? Which paper? Are you Stacy? Oh, hi. Tartaglione. And I'm moving back because the last time he almost killed me. What do you mean purely my allegations? It's enough to have the FBI investigating them.
I can't talk to you.
You can't talk to me?
No, right now you're rolling the camera. How are they going to use all that against me?
You got your
They definitely seem like mafia for sure.
camera on me, pal. I'm not afraid of people cameraing me, taping me. You want me to turn off the camera? I will. Is that what you mean? Think about it. Briarcliff didn't put him up on charges for assaulting and trying to kill me twice. Plus, he beat me up 2 other times. And there's about 10 or 11 victims in Pauling, New York, according to Ken Lynch. You interested? And Briarcliff protected him. Is that his father? Well, I'd like to know how he was brought up. Did you hear that? Was that a Briarcliff cop? Yeah, here it is. Wait, I'll get the guy. They don't even have to hide it in Briarcliff. It's Klan country.
Now, I don't know if I have this pulled up to the right point. If I do, I'll continue it with, but not, I'll continue on something else.
According to Janet Gongi and another eyewitness, Andy O'Rourke Jr. shoved Janet on one.
I don't think this is it.
It could happen to you. And why did Gail Gorman, a putative editor, object to my possibly taping her reply? Because she said, "Oh, are you taping me? I'm going to hang up." After she said to me for the 2nd day in a row that the reason that they weren't writing about this was because the tenants refused to talk to the newspaper. Former mayor of Briarcliff. But we're on to another subject. The other day, Tuesday, July 28th, 1997, I had an appointment to see Detective Sullivan of the Ossining Police Force to show detectives.
So it was in the 90s that this was
Sullivan
going down. So this wasn't even internet. This was like probably public access TV. Well, at least I got that detail. I don't want to fish around in an hour-long video for that part, but let's get a little bit on to this other potential angle. Oh wow, this video from Sheila has been taken down. Violating community guidelines. What happened there? Yeah, he was running after another cop that was like yelling at him. That guy, and they definitely end up taking him out. I'm sure of it. Like, you know. Let's take a look at this from the Mortician, though.
I'm going to show you
one of her videos one time, and I have 2 of them now. I'm not sure if either way, they're only like a minute or 2 long, so they're both really interesting though, and I think important to this side of the debate.
from a mortuary science standpoint why this photo does not show a deceased body. So when I saw this, the very first thing I noticed wasn't the weird looking table he's lying on. It wasn't his body positioning. It was actually the mouth area, his mouth. This is one of those things that families are always kind of shocked by because no one really talks about it. But when someone dies, every muscle in their body relaxes, all of it, including your jaw. And when the jaw relaxes, relaxes and someone is lying on their back, gravity takes over and the mouth opens, laying flat on his back with his mouth naturally closed. No tape, no visual support, no tension. My brain immediately goes, okay, well, the muscle tone is still there. And muscle tone does not exist in a deceased individual. Then I move on to skin color. When the heart stops, circulation stops, and the blood is no longer being pushed throughout the body. Gravity takes over. Blood settles into the lowest parts of your body, and we call that lividity. So if someone is lying flat on their back, I expect to see that settling, that purpley-ish color start showing up in very specific places. The back of the head, the neck, even the ears, face, shoulders. What I do not expect to see, his face is evenly colored. You can even see pink in certain areas of the face. And that color matters because deceased bodies don't hold facial color like that while supine. That kind of color suggests ongoing circulation, or at the very least, very recent circulation. Either way, it's not consistent with a body that's already gone through post-mortem changes.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree with that. I said this on stream, and thanks for that, Danny. I'll pull that up after this next one. Or Daniel, I'm not sure if you go by either or, but word, I appreciate that. I said this on stream before, but when I was yeah, they did take it down. Like, I guess when I was in my early 20s, late teens, I was an apprentice mortician, like when I was just getting out of high school for a couple years. And then I quit my job at the funeral home to go throw raves at the bar down the street. And then the rest, I guess, is history. Let's check out her other video though. And then we'll get into the other Tartaglione essay.
When you watch movies,
his name like 3 different ways about this. Let's take a look.
and they suddenly pass away. Movies lie to us. Television lies to us. Dead people on screen always look peaceful, mouth closed, perfect, calm. I always think of Snow White. She looked beautiful, right? Her mouth is just perfectly closed. But that's not reality. Reality is gravity. Reality is relaxation. Reality is the body doing exactly what physics tells it to do. So right out the gate.
Same one. Word. Well, look, we got this Tartaglione essay here. Is pulled up at 15 minutes, I guess.
Serious liability. Seems like everyone realized it, but him. He would have no choice but to continue to stay out on disability. As mentioned earlier, Tartaglione was known around the local gym scene as a hulking figure during his time on the force. He would continue that reputation post-police career. I'll revert back to Clay Tiffany's footage and show you his physical stature once more. You can clearly see his massive upper body and huge biceps, refusing to be hidden by his button-up shirt, his size far outweighing that of his police counterparts. It's reported that sometime in the early 2000s, Nicholas Tartaglione would come up with a new way to supplement his income while hoping to return to work. That supplementation, coming from his peddling of steroids and other illegal PEDs to local individuals in the gym scene who were looking to bulk up. And while I'm sure Nicholas Tartaglione was gifted with superior physical genetics, just looking at him, one could also assume that his appearance was also aided by performance-enhancing drugs like anabolic steroids, that same medicine he was dishing out for profit. If so, it could also offer an explanation for his violent fits of rage. One of his early customers in this business.
Roy rage being a thing too with that, for sure. I wonder why he got convicted though. You would think like he would be getting something in return, or maybe he does get convicted and then they just take him into jail and then take him out the back door and are like, yep, thanks for taking out Epstein for us.
Was a man by the name of Joseph Biggs, another hulking individual who called upstate New York his home. In 2000,
this one's a bit long, so I'm gonna move on to this other interesting angle here. So you might have seen this, but Jeffrey's Xbox or some kind of gaming, let's see, Fortnite. The profile has been made private now. The player has changed their in-game settings to make their profile private. Wow. Well, this is a screenshot here. And yeah. Little Saint Jeff won. And it says it's from Israel. I've seen a couple of things about this. And the interesting thing there is people are like making jokes about is Epstein gaming, but there's actually another potential. Yeah, F. Maxwell's gaming in her cushy prison now. But you can communicate over those games, you know what I mean? And it's actually, from what I understand, less surveilled than your typical phone connection. So I know that there's some surveillance taking place in online games, but the chess one too, yeah. Epstein chess account. Let me see if I can find that, because that was another one. So this is 3 months ago. Chess.com has been created with Epstein's confirmed email 2 years after his death. Well, now it turns out you can just create an account without email verification. Still though. And the other thing is that his account was hacked too. So that is the potential thing with this, is it could have been one of the hackers. That's one of the other theories that are going around to surveil this, or to, yeah. I was reading and looking at the same time, and yeah. So that's definitely another weird anomaly on the side of him potentially being alive. Let's see. See what else they put on here today, if there's anything. Peter Thiel ignores reporter while being asked about Epstein.
Comments about Palantir's surveillance of the American people, sir? Or any of your connections to Jeffrey Epstein? I think people are rather concerned about that last particular one. You're setting up a Big Brother surveillance
Yeah,
system, and
I have heard that. Yep. I've heard about like cartels and stuff using Xbox and stuff like that too. It's crazy.
do you think the American people want this surveillance tech being used against them?
He's just walking away. Oh yeah, apparently there's people trying to like unredact the images, and this person is like, they're trying to crack them, which is really not a good idea, I don't think, with at least with the images, because the you're gonna get yourself into trouble with that shit. Because who knows what the hell is going to be behind those redactions in some parts. Yeah, like in some parts you might see Trump or Bill Gates or whatever, but that is not a good idea. Yeah, the don't redactions, those were one of the really significant ones. But yeah, let's take a look at this. This guy had a really good breakdown of the whole, and he posted this months ago, and now a lot of the things that he has posted have been confirmed. This was, let's see when this was. Yeah, this was July 8th. So says Epstein video debunk part 2 Linengate. debunking the lies of CO Noel, the FBI, and Bondi about the linen excuse. Yesterday, in my original thread, I pointed out that the man believed to be Epstein could be seen ascending the stairs at 10:39 p.m. The OIG report, however, claims that this was just CO Noel carrying linens up to cell block L. But there are a series of problems with this statement, number 5 and 6 being some of the most damning. Number 1, no other tiers had linens carried up. 4 cell blocks have stairs in perfect view of the camera. If it's procedure to carry up new linens, why didn't we see that here? So it's these two different places that are circled. Tova Noel claims that she did her prior rounds at 10 p.m. and at 10:40 p.m. carried up linens, but she didn't. Security footage shows she started her rounds at 10:30 p.m., starting with L tier Epstein's, where she was for 2 minutes, then crossing the hall. What you'll notice is Noel spend less than a minute or so in each tier for their head count, and more importantly, her hands are empty. No linens are being delivered to these tiers. The lack of any orange linens is notable. We also know it wasn't the case that these cells were empty, which could be an argument for no liners, as the count slip was 73 plus 1. Amount of linens. We know that at least 8 prisoners, he's going into every detail on this. We know at least 8 prisoners are in upper L tier, as inmate number 7 was the highest number of prisoners listed in the interviews. The crime scene photo shows 3 linens in the hall of the same side of his cell. This suggests that in L tier alone, Nova would have been carrying up to 8 plus bulky prisoner jumpsuits and blankets if they were replacing the linens. But that amount of linens and are nowhere to be seen, except of course in Epstein's cell. Which, why are they all in there? What is that about? Like, that seems like an excessive amount of blankets in a prisoner cell. They don't give you much, you know? Hatman timing, but here's where it gets weirder. The official explanation of Hatman is that he was delivering flesh linens to 9 South. He arrives at 10:05 a.m. or 12:05 a.m. Hatman. I love how he's calling him Hatman. Hatman then grabs a bag of old linens that was placed there around 8 p.m. and throws them into the hall, before carrying a small bag of new linens downstairs and out of sight. Hatman's bag can't hold any more than a few linens. Hatman's delivery is at 12:05 a.m., nearly 2 hours after claim to carry fresh linens up to L tier. If Hatman is delivering the fresh laundry, how did Tova Noel already carry it upstairs at 10:39 p.m.? That's damning enough, but then it gets worse. Second Epstein sighting. Yesterday, we established that an orange blur ascends the stairs at 10:39 p.m., which OIG assumed based on Tova's statement was her delivering linen, which also proves is not a visual artifact. Yeah, and you can see in this, like, it looks like there's a head there, and maybe even a hand or something there reaching out. I don't know. I wrongly assumed that this meant Epstein was out of his cell for those hours because we never saw him come down the stairs until I was watching the footage back again to see when Tova Noel did her count and noticed another weird moment. At 10:29, something causes Tova Noel to move from her desk and approach the L tier stairs. She stands out of view. A screenshot 2, you see the empty stairway and back wall circled in green. Okay. You start to notice a shadow on the wall at the back of the stair, and the brief orange flashes as if a prisoner is standing there is shifting. Zoomed in, we could get a glimpse of the orange at the bottom of the stair before it disappears. Ah, yeah, right there, I think. And you can definitely see it there. 7 minutes later, the now infamous 10:39 screenshot, the orange suddenly appears. That is, if the timestamps are to be believed. And so, this blur at 10:32 p.m. could be Epstein leaving his cell. Yup. Whoops. Here's a brief sample zoomed in of some of the swaying in video format. It's much easier to see on a desktop in slow motion, but you can see the consistent color changes and shadows that do not appear at the stairs any other time. Uh-oh. There's shadows that appear out of nowhere? Let's take a look at this. Where are we looking? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There are definitely shadows on those walls. Like, you could kind of see it moving around. Am I tripping? It seems like it. And this is like frozen, or this is like it very, very slowed down. And yeah, this is the CPAP machine that he used to sleep, apparently. Tova Noel noted in her report that Epstein was laying on the mattress on the floor and without a cellmate, and yet she made no mention of the excessive amount of linens that were found in Epstein's room. Yeah, exactly. That was one of the first things that I thought when I saw it. Were they not there yet? Why wouldn't they come up? And if Tova said that it was her 10 p.m. check that she plugged in his CPAP, why do they continually note that it was that he was last seen at 10:40 p.m.? We know that Tova lied about the timing on her checks, but she recorded them as 10 p.m., not 10:40 p.m. What the prisoners heard. Even more perplexing is what the other prisoners saw and heard. Two different prisoners heard noises in the tier sometime around 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. that they assumed was a guard count despite it being 2 hours ago. Given the prisoners are used to the sounds of walking and the tier door, it seems likely somebody was in the tier at that time. It also is around the same time that Hat Man comes into the tier with new linen and disappears towards the staircase. But neither of those prisoners, nor prisoner 7, who claims he saw no one enter Epstein's room all night, including at 10 p.m., mentioned the 10 p.m. to 10:40 p.m. interaction of plugging in the CPAP, which would be obvious as they would have had to open Epstein's cell door. So what he's saying is that they're lying about plugging in his machine or even being in his room. It seems odd for the prisoners to not mention a benign interaction such as Tova Noel plugging in Epstein's CPAP machine. Epstein was just moved to the cell that day, so his door being open late would be a notable event, unless they knew mentioning it was trouble. 7 missing minutes. Astute observers will realize that if we look at the video timestamps, there is a total of 8 minutes missing from the length of the video versus the camera timestamps. One of those moments is when the tape rolls over at midnight and said to be a system glitch. That's fine. I managed to confirm most of those analog DVR systems do have a 1-minute nightly reboot, but this leaves us 7 minutes unaccounted for. And it turns out that these timestamps have been doctored. Using a stopwatch app, I checked the pace of each minute. The first discovery is that it wasn't consistent, which is a clear sign of the post edit manipulation. When clocks are out of sync, they are too fast or too slow consistently. So inconsistent time suggests editing. Damn, yo. On average, each minute I checked 59.35 seconds, but some were longer and some were shorter. At first, I thought maybe it was compression losing FPS, but then I remembered someone pointing out yesterday it was a screen recording, which makes tamper analysis harder. Rather than upload the raw file, we for some reason have a screen recording of playback, which we see at 3:39:21 when someone accidentally moves the mouse. Yeah, so somebody accidentally moves the mouse, and you see that the files that we have, the videos that we have of his cell that night are just a screen recording. not the actual raw files from the cameras in that prison. So what did and why the 59.35 seconds? Because it's exactly that amount of time you shave off each minute to cut 7 minutes out of 11 hours, but still have timer show each. Oh, I'm going to read that again because it's exactly the amount of time you shave off each minute to cut 7 minutes out of 11 hours, but still have the timer show each second. Wow. So you cut an entirety of 7 whole minutes out, and then later, when you just have the screen recording, you cut it like that. Each minute is 59.35 seconds instead of a minute. That's crazy. The way that they are playing with shit ever since they have released this. It's like their back has been against the wall. They have all this evidence and they are just doing everything they can to obfuscate and obscure it. That means if something was cut out of the video, we'd be looking for a point in time where between time A and time B, the timestamp changed by 7 minutes, but there were no events on screen. It seemed like they're trying to find a needle in a haystack until I remembered at 10:32, orange pixels are seen at the bottom of the stairs, and at 10:39, we see orange pixels go back up. That's a difference of 7 minutes. Wow. But that wouldn't make sense as we'd expect an instant jump skip if this is what the time they cut out. This is what I was thinking. Unless the actual footage was longer and they only cut out parts when people were visible on camera. And even this seemed like a coincidence. For even a portion of the cut to be during that time, timestamps to be off of the testimony reported times before 10:32 p.m., timestamps of testimony after 10:39 p.m. to have improved accuracy, timestamps in the video to not match the OIG statements. And guess what? Timestamps early on in the night better match testimony when rounded down by 7 minutes, such as prisoners being locked down around 8 p.m. But the timestamps later in the night more accurately to testimony, such as the officer said who said he arrived exactly at midnight, which it looks like this guy has, or 12:01, unless he punched in a little bit in a different side of the building. You know what I mean? And most of all, the timestamps from when the OIG watched the video to the current version of the video do not match, meaning the tampering happened after the OIG analysis and still wasn't in the report. So it ended up being a total coincidence that this time gap was 7 minutes on the stairs and 7 minutes were missing, but we know at least some of those 7 minutes cut were removed from the video around then because of how time skewed before and after. So what did we learn in part 2? Epstein may have went down the stairs at 10:32 p.m. Tova could not have been carrying up linens as she didn't do it elsewhere, and clean linens weren't delivered until 2 hours later. Tova claimed to plug in Epstein's CPAP 10:30 or 10 to 10:30, but made no mention of extra linens. Hatman arrives. I'm trying to look through the interesting ones. The raw file was not exported. All of this points to lies from CO Noel and others at the IOG covering up exactly what happened that night. And a deeper investigation is needed into the exact timestamps to figure out exactly where each piece of missing footage is. That's a crazy one. Like, especially the whole like 7 minutes being taken out and the way that they kind of trimmed it to make it look like all the time was there. And then when Pam Bondi got caught in that, remember, she was like, it is 1 minute, there is 1 minute taken off, and she just started like repeating herself like a robot. That is nuts. Yeah, he really went into detail. That was Adam Cochran did that research. He's apparently writing a book on Epstein right now. and this was a part of his research with that. So let's see. I wanted to pop this up too. I found a couple of other really weird things in there. These are all going to be kind of just random stuff I found in my research at this point. That's all I have on the on the life and death. If any of you have any other links on any other theories related to him being alive or somebody else taking him out, if they're short links, send them on. Interesting. This was sent at 11:11 too, 11:13. I call him now my future husband. We were talking about our daughter. I thought I would never be able to kill someone in my life. I was wrong. I might escape anyway. I miss you, Jeffrey. Big kiss. I'll know that you probably won't like to kiss me anymore. Oop. This was in 2010. Now, that because of the fact that we're reading a complete monster's emails, we're automatically going to assume that this is a murder confession. I do. It could be a tongue-in-cheek thing, like it could be some kind of inside joke we don't get, I don't know, but it reads like a murder confession for sure. Let's see what else we got. Let's see here. Yeah, there was this Deutsche Bank stuff as well. See if I look into this. Actually,